Hello and welcome to the Most Unique Names SQL Challenge. I'm Kendra Little from SQL Workbooks. And in this video, I'm going to show you real fast how to set up this SQL challenge and step you through the challenge file. For the setup, we've got a file named Most Unique Names and then oo-setup.sql. At the top of that file, there is a link to where to download the database backup. So download it from here and then unzip it. This script will help you restore it to your SQL Server instance. So on a SQL Server instance where you're not going to bother anybody, you want to restore this database. The very first thing that this does is blow away any database with the current name Babby name. So if you want to preserve something from other SQL challenges, maybe you don't want to run that, maybe you want to change the name of the database you're restoring, that's totally fine. You will also probably need to alter the location where you've put the .back file that you downloaded and unzipped. And depending on whether or not you have an S drive, maybe you want to restore the data file and the log file to a different place as well. So this is just designed to make restoring easier for you. If you prefer to restore with the GUI, you could skip this script altogether, but I am using the database backup downloaded from this link in the demo. Now on to the challenge file. So we are moving into not the solution file, and don't worry, the solution isn't showing there. We are going to actually open up the challenge file and I'll step you through the challenge itself. Now I have restored the database to my instance already. I'll just show you how long this takes to run. It just takes a couple of seconds to restore this to my instance. So we'll refresh up here. And in the Babby Names database, you're not going to be using a ton of tables. In fact, there are not a ton of tables to use, but we will primarily be using the ag.firstnameByState table in here. So I'm going to expand the columns there, and we'll look at that as we look through the challenge. There are 4 separate T-SQL writing challenges, and they are related, and they build from simpler to more complex. Kind of, actually. I think the 4th one is the hardest. So if you just want to do one, you could go for the hard one. But they are all related to one another, and there's a little bit of flow, I think, if you work from 1 to 4. In challenge 1, the only table you need to use is this ag.firstnameByYearState table. And your challenge is to write a query that returns only 3 rows. This will vary by challenge, but in this one, you only need to return 3 rows. And I've given you a view of what the result set should look like there. The 3 rows should be based upon the lowest average use per name, which we define just below this for a given state code and report year combo. So for this top row, for Nevada in 1911, there were 13 distinct names used for Nevada in 1911. There were the total named column is the total number of babies reported. So there were only 85 names reported, but for those 85 babies, there were a total of 13 names, resulting in an average use per name of 6.5. Now, notice I don't have in here the actual names themselves. So in ag.firstnameByYearState, we have a first name ID and we have a name count. So we can figure out for a given first name ID, what were the total names and what were the distinct number of first name IDs. We don't actually, in this query, need to return what were the names at all, so we can just use this ag.firstnameByYearState table and no others. I've given you here some details on how to calculate that column as well, and I am returning it. I am using numeric 10.1 to return this. So our lowest value for that for any state code and report year combo is Nevada in 1911. All right, for challenge 2, it's very similar to challenge 1, but challenge 2 is actually a little bit simpler. We do not care about report year at all in challenge 2. Very similar, but what we want to know is for all time, for a state code, what is the distinct number of names, or how many unique names were used? What is the total number of babies named? And then what's the average use per name? And on this one, we are once again just want 3 rows. So this is the full result set. And you want to order the results from the lowest average use per names to the highest. All right, so in challenge 3, we are building on challenge 2. And in this one, we have another table who comes in. We're still using ag.firstname by year state, but we also actually want to return some detail on the first names themselves. So we need to join to ref.firstname, and we are going to join based on that first name ID. If you take a look at ref.firstname, it also has a first name ID column that we can join on so that we can actually figure out, okay, what is the value of those first names? For challenge 3, we only want to return information for one state. For the single state that has the lowest value of average use per name over all years. So again, we don't care about report year, but for all years reported in the data set, we want that lowest value for average use per name. Spoiler, we already know what state that is, right? So we're going to dig into the details for that state. We are going to return 3 different columns: state code, total named, and then first name. And we are going to order the results from the lowest total name to the highest. And that's the primary order. And then after that, we're going to do it alphabetically by first name. You will get 1,620 rows total. And instead of giving you the full result set, I'm just showing you what the first 3 rows of the 1,620 rows will look like. Now, in our data set, we can only ever have 5 names or more reported. They don't include the U.S. Social Security Administration doesn't include if we had a name that was only used 3 times or 2 times or 1 time in a state in a given year. We wouldn't even see that because for privacy reasons, they only return when there are 5 or more babies with that name. So this is what the first 3 rows would look like for that single state who has the overall time most unique names. Now, challenge 4 is kind of similar to challenge 3, except we're getting a little fancier here. We're using the same 2 tables. We're once again using ag.firstname by your state and ref.firstname, join on first name ID. But for this one, we want to write a stored procedure, and I've just called it challenge 4. It takes a parameter, dense rank, which is a tiny int. And what you want in this case is, with challenge 3, we're saying, okay, we just want that list of names for this single state that has like the most unique names. For this one, we want the user to be able to specify the rank. So not just number 1. We only did number 1 in the previous query, but this time they need to be able to specify, do they want rank 2? Do they want rank 5? Do they want rank 10? So we are going to, again, base this on that average use per name, which is calculated for all years for that state. The state with the lowest average use per name would have rank 1. The next would have rank 2, etc. And I want you to use dense rank for that. Do not worry about ties in this. If a state is tied for rank number 4, just bring it all back. That's totally fine. You don't have to break the ties. Here are the columns you'll return. The ordering is once again based on the lowest total name to the highest and then alphabetically by first name. And I've given you for a sample execution. So if we were to execute the procedure with dense rank equals 2, here is what the first 3 rows would look like. It should return for dense rank equals 2, it should return 1,559 rows. Wyoming is ranked number 2 with this data set, and here are the first 3 names in it. So I've given you just the outline of the procedure with no logic. Fill the code in there, and then here is the command for testing. I hope you have fun taking a test T-SQL write for these challenges, and I'll meet you in the next video for a sample set of solutions.